Hello students, standard 6th. Today we are going to start the revision in chemistry. Chapter number 4, sorting materials into groups. We know that there are variety of items that we see around us. For example, our food, clothes, and so many others like table, chair, cupboard, fan, lights, doors, windows, and so many more objects. All these objects are having different shapes, different colors, different uses, etc. If you observe the objects around you, you will observe that some of them have round shape. For example, a ball, a marble, etc. And some fruits are also like apple, oranges, etc. Some objects are edible, some are not edible, and so on. So now we can wish to make a group of objects which are made of plastics. Suppose you have to make a list of the objects which are made up of plastics. So some of the materials, some of the objects around us are made up of plastics, like chair, table, scissors, some containers to store the food items or the grains, etc. Some you will see that they are made up of only one material, and some are made from the more than one materials also. Now you will see that the objects that should be separated from each other, which is known as the classification or sorting out materials into groups. We can make the list like here. Paper. Mention some materials which are made up of paper. The books, magazines, notebooks, newspapers, then envelopes, etc. These objects are made up of paper. You can make list of materials which are made up of wood. For that we can have table, chairs, cupboards, doors and windows, bed, writing table, and so many more other things you can add in it. Other things are metals. The objects made from the metals that are like some cupboards, tables, pipes, wires, water bottles, cooking utensils, that are all made up of metals. Then plastics, we already talked about the plastics. So we can sort out materials about different categories. You can make a list of the objects around you such that they are made up of different materials also. For example, if you take a plate is made from the metal also, means steel. Glass plates are also available. Plastic plates are also available. And nowadays paper plates are also available. Similarly, you can take pen. Pen are made from plastics. Metal pens are also available. And so on. So similarly, you can containers for the storage. They are also made from the plastics. They are also made from the metals like aluminium or the steel, etc. Take an example of bucket. Buckets are also made of steel, made up of plastics, made up of aluminium, and so on. So now, what are the properties of the material? Properties of the material are like different appearance or slusher, hardness, roughness, smoothness, etc. are the different properties of the materials. Now, the second question is that on which factors does our choice of a material used for making any specific object depend? So now, when we want to make a specific object, we cannot make from any type of material, but we have to choose a specific material, and which depends on some special characteristics. For example, what is the use of that material? Means that container or whatever object want to make, what will be the use of that object? And the other things is that what will be its capacity? Means the material should be of proper type. We cannot make means we cannot make objects from any of the materials. So we have to use we have to choose the proper materials so that the purpose of use can be proper. So the properties and the purpose of use, that are the two main factors on which it depends on the choice of the material. Why is a tumbler not made with a piece of cloth? Generally, tumbler we use to store the liquid like water or milk, etc. Now, cloth material are so light, they cannot hold the liquid material into it. Second thing is that in the clothing material, there can be some small pores, small holes. So if you keep the water or the liquid material into the cloth, then what will happen? From that small pore, the liquid will come out. So your purpose of keeping liquid cannot be fulfilled. And therefore, the tumbler cannot be made from a piece of cloth, but it can be made either from the plastic or the other metallic materials, such that it can hold the liquid in it. So, similarly, why don't we use plastic materials for cooking? because plastic material can burn, it can melt, but we have to use metals which are good conductors of heat, and due to that property of metal, we have to use metals to make cooking material, cooking vessels. For the cooking vessel, we can also use the paper materials or cardboard materials, because when we use that material, that can be burned and our purpose of cooking will not be fulfilled. And therefore, it is very necessary that we choose a material which is proper for the use of it, and so on. So now, if we talk about the metals, metals have some special look which differ from other materials. For example, if you look a metal and a wood, what is the difference between them in appearance? You will see that the metals like iron, copper, aluminium, they have luster, means their surfaces are shiny, or by rubbing them we can make it more shiny. But the wooden material is not shiny, it is dull. So that are the difference between that two materials. So in appearance, we can see that there is dissimilarity between the metallic objects and the objects made from the wood, means wooden materials. Now, if you collect some objects, different materials like paper, cardboard, wood, copper wire, aluminium sheet, chalk, etc. Now, you can sort it out them according to their similarity and dissimilarity. Like all the metals are shiny, so you will put them as a different way because they shine or they have the luster, and thus we can classify them as lustrous and non-lustrous materials. What are the similarities between iron, copper and aluminium? You can see that all these three materials are the metals. So what is the similarity between them? All of them are hard. All of them have luster, means their surface is shiny. Similarly, they all are good conductors of heat and good conductors of electricity also, means they allow the heat to pass through them and they allow the current, electric current also to pass through them. So these are the different, the similarities between all the metals, including the gold and silver, iron, copper, aluminium, etc. So they shine and therefore we can but they also can get dull because of the action of air and moisture on them. But when we again shine them, we can rub it with then you can get luster. So that is the way we say that they what have the similarities. Now the last thing is, what do you mean by soft materials and hard materials? When you press different materials with your hands, then you will observe that some of the materials are very, very hard to compress. It means that if you give some pressure, they cannot get compressed. But on the other hand, you will also find some materials which are easily can compressed. For example, take a metal key and try to scratch with it the surface of a piece of wood, aluminium, piece of stone, nail, etc. etc. You will see that you can easily scratch some materials while some cannot be scratched so easily. So, materials which can scratched easily or can be compressed, then they are soft materials. So the materials which can be compressed easily or can be scratched on them easily, then those materials are soft materials. For example, the sponge, some rubber materials, some plastics, clothes, cotton, etc. Those materials are very, very soft compared to the other materials. But if you take some metals, wood, stone, brick, and glass like materials, can you compress them easily? No, you won't be able to compress them easily. You cannot scratch on some of the materials also. And therefore, these materials are the hard materials. So here we discuss about the materials and sorting out. We discussed all the question of the assignment. It will be in the PDF and you will write down the answers on your own. And if any confusion, there is comment section. Thank you very much.